This video is about Jehovah's Witnesses and clergy privileges. Recently, in court, the elders have been trying to claim that they are protected by clergy privileges. But Jehovah's Witnesses have no clergy class, and they have preached against it for many years. They even teach that the clergy of Christendom is the man of sin mentioned in the Bible. The clergy is vilified, and the Jehovah's Witnesses despise them. Yet when it comes to exposure of their own failed policies to the public, they hide under the clergy's skirt. Do you really think that janitors and window washers are qualified to counsel mentally ill criminals? Can they adequately protect the flock when they will not expose who has been accused of these crimes? Here's an example for you. Here's a convicted molester sentenced to 45 years to life, Brother Gilbert Simmental. He molested 2 little girls and confessed to the elders. He was repentant, so the elders handled it and thought that would be the end. When he was arrested, the prosecutor asked 2 of the elders to testify about his confession. Elders John Vaughn and Andrew Sinney refused to testify after they were subpoenaed by the prosecutor. They cited the confidentiality afforded by penitent clergy privilege. The judge ordered them to testify after it was found that the Jehovah's Witness judicial system is not designed to keep information confidential. Prior to the trial, the case had broke new legal ground in California about when statements are made to clergy, which ones are to be kept confidential. This case made a bold statement to all religious organizations that we are not going to allow you to abuse confidentiality privileges to suppress the confession of a child molester. The stakes are way too high. You see, when elders John Vaughn and Andrew Sinney balked at testifying and claimed penitent clergy privilege, but it did not apply since California law protects clergy members who are required by their faith to keep them secret. So therefore the elders were not protected by this law since their faith did not force them to keep it a secret. So who were these 2 elders protecting? It wasn't the victims in this crime. It was the Watchtower Society and themselves. What loving men these 2 elders are. But what makes Jehovah's Witnesses different than clergy? I went on jw.org and I found under frequently asked questions, do Jehovah's Witnesses have a paid clergy? And it reads, following the model of first century Christianity, Jehovah's Witnesses have no clergy laity division. All baptized witnesses are ordained ministers and share in the preaching and teaching work. I looked a little more, and in this August 2009 Awake, there's the article, Should There Be a Clergy Laity Distinction? And this article goes on to say, Most Reverend, Right Reverend, Father, Most Holy Father, Rabbi, His Eminence, His Excellency, His Holiness, His All Holiness. These are some of the titles that distinguish the clergy of various religions from the laity. The separation of the clergy from the laity is common to many religions, but is the arrangement from God, or is it a human tradition? More important, does it have God's approval? It says, in the New Testament and during the early apostolic times, there is no mention of clergy or laity. And it goes on to quote a Professor of Theology. But after that, it says, if then the clergy-laity distinction is not based on the model set by Jesus' apostles and other early Christians, does that make it wrong? According to the Bible, yes. And the article goes on to tell why. It says, God's word tells us that all Christians serve as God's ministers and that none is above or beneath the other. It also says, spiritually older men did, of course, serve as overseers, which included being shepherds and teachers. However, these men were not paid clerics. For the most part, they were ordinary working men, husbands and fathers. Moreover, they qualified to serve as overseers, not by attending religious seminars, but by being diligent students of God's Word and by cultivating the spiritual qualities required by God. It then says, why is it wise to stick to the Bible? Do not go beyond the things that are written, the Bible states. Sadly, when people disregard that divinely inspired directive, spiritual harm usually results, and that is true of the clergy-laity arrangement. And then it goes on to give 6 reasons why. And then after the 6 points, it says, in order to adhere closely to the pattern set down in the Bible, Jehovah's Witnesses have not a clergy class, but unpaid spiritual shepherds and teachers who willingly minister to God's flock. Why not see for yourself by visiting a kingdom hall in your locality? So how are Jehovah's Witnesses different than the clergy? Well, there is no clergy-laity distinction. All, regardless of race or social status, are brothers and sisters. And just like you saw in those articles, they say having a clergy-laity is wrong according to the Bible. Well, it's amazing how they say all this, but I guess it's unless you've been subpoenaed.